Okay. So we've got 3 weeks left in the regular season. In my Sunday column this week, I sort of likened that to the end of a set at a concert, end of the main set at a concert where, in fact, I saw Chris Stapleton play this summer, and all the ninnies in the audience kept on yelling, "We want to hear Tennessee Whiskey. We want to hear Tennessee." You know, they do that at concerts all the time. People get fixated on one song, and I think it drives the artist crazy. In fact, there's more tn one funny story about,
well, so I was at a bowling for soup concert, and at the Backyard here in Waco, and this was just a few months ago. Similar kind of deal, where there were a couple, I'm going to say college students, Baylor students, standing nearby me, and over and over and over, we're just like, when are they going to play 1985? You know, I mean, come on, if they don't play it next, I'm leaving. And they did ultimately end up leaving, probably a song before they ended up playing 1985. But yeah, I was like, dude, first of all, these artists have more than one song, and just because you only know one, why are you even here?
Well, so at the end of this Stapleton show, and he always does the same thing, he does this sort of bluesy intro of the band, and it's really funny and just a cool way to introduce his band. And the whole time he's playing this blues riff, and you know where they're going, and then they play Tennessee Whiskey to end the main set. And then all the ninnies leave because they heard Tennessee Whiskey and they think the show's over. And then they come back with the encore. And the encore is like dessert that you're not too full to eat.
Right.
That's a metaphor within a metaphor.
Okay.
But all of this rambling to say we're close to the end of the main set. The good stuff is really coming, like, for the regular season.
Oh yeah.
One
encore after another, really.
Well, the playoffs are the encore. That's the metaphor.
Yeah, right. I'm just saying, you get an encore one week, and then you get an encore the next week, and it just gets better and better.
Well, you're screwing up where my metaphor here, Brice. Don't mess with my metaphor.
Go
anyway,
on.
We've got 3 weeks left. So got some great games on Friday night. Give me one storyline you're interested in as we come to the second. We've come around the second turn of the regular season.
To me, it's a storyline that will not be answered anytime soon, but it will be answered by Christmas, and that's just how many state champions will Central Texas produce. This is something we've talked about really since before the season ever started. We are used to pretty stinking good football around here, and year after year after year, at least in some division of football, whether it is 4A, 2A, 1A, 3A, whatever it might be, we produce at least one state champion, if not more than one. And last year was this anomaly that we didn't really like. Because
we got shut out. Yeah,
we got shut out, and it was the first time in about 15 to 8. I'm trying to remember now, but about 15 years that it had happened. And I feel like we're going to come back with a vengeance this year, in terms of Central Texas producing state champions. And I feel like Martin Live Oak might be locks. And so then you're talking about who beyond them might have a shot. And I think the Lorena Leopards have a shot. I think 3A is pretty good around here, honestly, with La Vega or with Lorena, West, the Grosbeck Goats, who we talked about earlier. I think those teams are going to play a while. Obviously there's other good teams in the state, and you're going to run into some good teams. And so you got to make plays, but Crawford is another one that I'll throw out there as a team that, has a chance to do something in the playoffs. They were in the state semifinals last year and clicking along pretty well right now.
Well, on that subject, and I'll give you my storyline here in a minute. It's a little bit more micro than macro, but do you think Carthage is insurmountable, or do you think China Spring is crescendoing towards something like beating Carthage and getting beyond that?
Tough question to answer without really getting to see Carthage, and I guess nowadays with streaming, maybe we could take a look at some of these other out of area teams, but we've kind of got our hands full,
We got enough to do.
Yeah, we don't need to be scouting for anyone, but I think, it's going to be a tough road to hoe. Carthage is Carthage for a reason. That said, I always feel like the more you play a team, the more it benefits you, whether you win or lose. You learn things, you take things, and you figure out maybe where you need to get better against that particular opponent. The fact that China Spring saw Carthage last year, benefits the Cougars, I think, if they meet again.
Yeah. So my more micro, this maybe doesn't have an impact for late November and December, but should be interesting the next 3 weeks is who are going to be the third and fourth place teams in our district with China Spring, Salado, and Robinson, and Connally, and Gatesville. Because China Spring is, I think, head and shoulders above everybody else in the district.
Agreed.
Salado beat them last year, but I don't think that's going to happen again on Friday.
I agree.
And so then, but Salado's probably, as much as China Spring is head and shoulders above everybody else for the district championship, Salado is probably right there at second place. They beat Connally, who I would have said that was the biggest contender for the number 2 seed there on Friday night. And I think that was like 28-7, something like that. And then, well, I've got it here. No, that's
it was 28-7.
Yeah. And then Gatesville made the playoffs last year. Gerald's probably out. Gerald's been knocked around by, I think, everybody they played, including Robinson last week.
Well, it was a close game, and give credit to the Robinson Rockets, who've had a tough season, but big win for Robinson, 50-43, and really puts them right in the mix just by winning that game. And you've got Robinson and Gatesville this week. And to me, if you're talking about, who's going to be in that top 4, I think the winner of this game puts themselves in a pretty good place for that. First of all, you have the tiebreaker over the other one, should it come down to a head-to-head type situation. But Gatesville's sitting there at 0-3. The Hornets can't afford to go to 0 or they're 0-2. They can't afford to get to 0-3. And if Robinson,
they played China and Salado.
If Robinson wins this one and puts themselves at 2-1, I think the Rockets are looking pretty good.
Yeah, and Connally, of course, has a win over Robinson. To their credit, so that still makes them look, pretty good as a playoff team. But then, they're going to have to beat Gatesville, and that Gatesville Connally game sort of has some intrigue to it.
Yeah, I would say both the Robinson Gatesville game this week and the future Connally Gatesville game, like you said, have intrigue, have some drama to them, and will be interesting to see. I don't think any of these teams are destined for a deep playoff run, but let's face it, they're even in an era of UIL football that a lot of old timers would dismiss and say, there's too many teams make the playoffs. And to a certain extent, I agree with that. But that said, you can't tell me that for Robert Rubel's team out at Robinson, that making the playoffs wouldn't be a big step, you know? I mean, because he's trying to build something there. And sometimes that little, you know, 4-6, 5-5 step can help you, you know, get to 8-4 the next year, or, you know, a couple years down the road.
Right.